let's bring you our special guest today, who is the playwright Jessica Sian, set in modern-day Johannesburg. Her play, Klippies, is a story about two girls from different cultural and social backgrounds. Thandi is a studious girl from a well-off family who has recently lost her mother, while Yolandi's mother drinks and she often goes hungry. Thandi is black and Yolandi is white, and in the stifling heat of summer, their two worlds collide. The play has just opened in London 10 days ago, and Jessica joins us in the studio. Welcome, Jessica. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
How's it all been going?
Really good, yeah. Mad, but really good. We've had some really positive reviews, and people are responding to the show really well, so we're really pleased.
Tell us a little bit about the play.
So, one afternoon, waiting outside the school gates, Thandi and Yolandi strike up this unlikely friendship. And the play is set in the height of a Johannesburg summer drought, waiting the first rains. And as we build up to the storm, the girls' friendship is tested by their struggle to make themselves understood to their parents, their social inheritance, their burgeoning sexuality, and that all kind of comes to a hilt as the rains come, the first rains.
And you're from South Africa, of course. How much of an influence has South Africa played in this play?
Well, yeah, it's like all the influence, I think. Well, Johannesburg particularly, though, I'm from Joburg, and I think I really wanted to try and capture the essence of Johannesburg and what a kind of urban jungle African childhood was like. And
there are quite a few themes in this, aren't there? Mm-hmm. Friendship being one of the main ones, and this is a slightly unusual friendship, one that you know isn't the stereotypical. How exactly does that play out, and those themes, how do they arise?
I think that, yeah, friendship is probably the core theme of the play, and I think that's what makes it universal, despite the fact that it is very rooted in Johannesburg. I think that the themes of the girls like dealing with their sexuality and their discovery of that is also a very universal thing, but it's about what the restraints are on a society that, despite having a very democratic and one of the most democratic in the world constitutions, is still struggling to make those freedoms a reality for people within their families and their communities, and about how we can do that with each other, I guess, and be kind.
On the surface, with one black girl and one white girl, it would look like this is about race. But it's about a lot more than that, isn't it? It's about the social divide that they face, the class, and a number of other issues that just are young girls growing up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to shy away from race at all. I think that South Africa is still obviously, you know, a very racially charged country, and we're still dealing with a very recent history, very painful history. But I think that the 21 years now after democracy, it's a much subtler, more complex issue, and this play is trying to unpick what that is a little bit.
It's called Klippies. A lot of people watching won't be familiar with the word Klippies. I certainly wasn't until a few hours ago. Just explain why you've called it Klippies and what Klippies is.
So Klippies is the nickname for our sort of in-house brandy Klipdrift. And it also in Afrikaans means like small stones or little stones. And I guess that's what the girls throw at each other. But this is also like a recreational thing for them, kind of drinking in the park, in the veld.
And you mentioned apartheid then. There's obviously been a recent flare-up of xenophobic attacks within South Africa, really sort of showing how racially charged, as you say, the country still is. Does that play a big part at all in the play, or is that just in the background there?
I think the kind of maybe I don't know if I want to use this term. Yeah, I'm going to use it. Culture of violence that we have in South Africa, or this sort of feeling of the way that we can be quite brutal with each other, is definitely a backdrop to the play. But I haven't touched on the xenophobic attacks, either in 2008 or the most recent ones, in this particular story, because it's not particularly relevant to these two girls, whilst it is obviously very relevant to me and anyone who's South African, or anyone who's experiencing xenophobia or a rise in nationalism in their working class communities in the world, which I think is happening a lot across the globe at the moment.
And during the Oscar Pistorius case, the violence against women within South Africa really sort of raised the profile, that specific case of it. Does that play a part within this, them both being young girls growing up in South Africa?
I think something that does come out in the play, in the way that the girls talk about becoming women and about the way that they talk about other women in their lives is quite. Is an echo on how we still have a very patriarchal and very conservative societies who, in lots of communities, are still very oppressive, and women are feeling that.
And you grew up in South Africa. What influenced you to write this? Was it your own upbringing? Was it things you saw?
It was a combination of a couple of things. One was the discovery of Die Antwoord, which are a South African band whose music feature in the play. And I'd kind of been a bit distanced from South Africa, living in London, and discovered them and just felt like this amazing, like, cool art and work is coming out of a country that feels totally different to anything I'm experiencing anywhere else. And that felt really exciting, really inspiring. And also craving a more subtle story of the place that I grew up, because I think we're confronted with this very single story internationally about South Africa that revolves around apartheid, and they're either like safari stories or gangland stories, and I wanted something that was, subtler than that.
And the hope and the fact that you can move forward is also quite a big theme in the play.
Yeah.
Is that something that you saw when you were growing up, or you saw in others? You saw a country which has a lot of potential to become even better than it currently is?
Yeah, completely. I think I grew up kind of just in the last years of apartheid, and then in the kind of almost honeymoon period of democracy. And I think now South Africa is really facing up to the very real challenges of trying to create a more equal society. And that's not as simple as passing legislation. It's much harder grassroots work. And I think when I go home, my colleagues and people my age are doing really exciting things that are doing that and that are creating really hopeful communities.
And you're obviously putting on the play here in London. How have audiences here received it? It's been on for 10 days now. What are people saying about it? Yeah,
people seem to be really, really positive about it, which is great. I think we had some kids in the other day who, which is what I really, really wanted. They were just like, oh, they're just like me. And it's so interesting to see their lives. And I think that's what it's about as well, as this like global community, and we're all kind of suffering the same challenges on different levels. And it's just about being aware of that, telling each other stories about it.
This is your first play. Do you plan to write more, or are you sort of currently in the moment with Klippies and you can't see beyond that?
I am wanting to write more. I'm wanting to write a bit more for film and telly as well, ideally. I have something else that I developed while I was doing the Young Writers Programme at the Royal Court that, in the next couple of weeks I'll start picking up and looking at again. But it takes a long time and it's really hard. So,
But what have you learned during the writing experience? Because, as you say, your first one, you must have come across so many things that challenging things you didn't really know how to face, and you're sort of kind of winging it. How's it been? What anyone watching now who wants to write a play, what would your advice be?
Things that sound cool in your head don't always sound cool when actors say them out loud. And I think when you're a writer, you just like, they can do this in this scene and then do this in this scene. And then the director's like, and how are they going to get that prop from there to there? You thought about that. So I think thinking about how hard it is to put a show on, how much work and how much people's time and effort go into it. And just being really aware that you've really kind of tried to troubleshoot as many of the problems as you can with the script before you get to that point sending it to somebody.
Is there a chance of it being shown in South Africa?
That is my big, big hope. I really think that it would be so sad if we don't get to take the story home, and that is the goal. So we're having a few meetings and a few discussions, and hopefully we can take it to Grahamstown, take it to Joburg, and it can have a life at home, because that would be really valuable.
And I'm sure fellow South Africans have seen it. What has their response been?
It's amazing, because I was in a show where we had our first kind of clump of South Africans who were really obvious, because they were laughing at the load shedding jokes and no one else really knew what that was about. And more just having this really wonderful experience of obviously being in London, being away from home and going, that is like that, isn't it? And that was really, heartwarming and cool. So South Africans should definitely come, and I want more of that as well. That would be cool.
And just tell us a few of the details about where people can go and watch it and when it's on.
It's on at Southwark Playhouse on Newington Causeway. It runs until the 6th of June. We've got 7 shows a week with a matinee and an evening on Saturdays. It's at 8 p.m. and it's only an hour and 15 minutes long, so short and sweet. and packs a punch.
There we go. A great sell. Jessica Sian, thank you very much
Thank
indeed
you so
for coming
much.
in. I hope the rest of the run goes well. I'm sure it will. And yeah, congratulations on what all the reviews seem to be raving about. So thanks a lot for coming in.